working-class town in the Czech Republic. It's just a stone's throw from the German border, and life is quiet and peaceful here. Until now. In 2019, the Porsche Carrera Cup travels to the 4.2-kilometer motordrome in northern Bohemia for the very first time. A challenging circuit, 21 turns, 9 left and 12 right. 2/3 of the track has been newly asphalted for the 2019 season. Perfect conditions for high speed and tough battles. A crucial factor, the tight chicane at the end of the start-finish straight. The cars approach at more than 250 kilometers per hour, a bottleneck in the race. In qualifying, you have to make sure you're on the first 3 rows of the grid, otherwise it's going to be difficult to get through the first chicane without problems. I'm sure it'll be very entertaining. A jam will form, especially at the start. Let's see, hopefully we'll get through it as best we can. Team Black Falcons' David Kolkman introduces the track.
Here we are in Most. This is the start-finish straight. We accelerate up to the 6th gear. Top speed is 250 kph. So yeah, we have to focus on the braking point here. It's a very hard braking point just before the 100 meter sign. 2nd gear corner, very important to be on the line. Focus on the exit here. You can use all the track with the cup car. Then back to 5th gear here. Braking is very difficult for the next couple of corners. And in 3rd gear, braking on the curb here, lockups are quite easy. Then build up the throttle here, and again braking over a curb. 2nd gear, straight braking, lockups are quite easy. This was the slowest corner of the track. Now we go back to 5th gear. Now one of the fastest corners of the track is just in front of us. 4th gear, carry a lot of speed through the corner and build up the power again. So now we go in the right, left, right corners. 3rd gear, very easy to overdrive the car here. Then we focus on the next right-hander, build up the power for a good exit speed. Then we shift up back to 5th gear and focus on the braking point for the last 2 corners. It's around 100 meters. Carry a lot of speed into the corner here, use the curb, build up the power again, and very late turning for the last corner for a good exit speed on the straight. This was 1 lap with David Kolkman and Most.
Lechner Racing must show what's in them. Everything was perfect in 2018. The Austrians dominated the Carrera Cup Germany. Thomas Preining sealing the title. However, the start to the 2019 season went anything but according to plan. Their best position at Hockenheim was P5. We pretty much botched it. We have 2 or 3 ideas, but by and large we botched it badly. I don't remember us ever being that poor at Hockenheim. Improvement is a must for Lechner Racing at Most. The pressure is there, and they must support these men. Carrera Cup veteran Michael Ammermuller and his young teammate Julien Andlauer. They must take points if they don't want to sink without trace in the overall standings. The distribution of points isn't so bad in the Carrera Cup. You can cut the cap by a lot of points if you win a few races. We always have 2 races, which is good to catch up, and the others may squander points. It's not over until it's over. Everything is still open. He spoiled the party for Lechner Racing at Hockenheim. Overdrive racing by Uber driver Larry ten Voorde. He won both races in Germany, and he has a plan for the premiere at Most. We'll try to get maximum points, as we did in the last race. We've been here a few times, and it went well in the Carrera Cup test. But okay, it starts from scratch today. Waiting for qualifying. As mentioned, the starting position will be crucial for the race. It's correspondingly emotional. Jackson Evans disagreed with his colleagues, and then Richard Wagner ended up in the gravel. The session was interrupted. I was completing a push lap on my second set of tires. I had two slow cars in front of me. They warmed up their tires. I flashed them. The first one got it and moved to the side. I thought the second one had understood it too, because he also moved to the side. But he turned towards me when I was close to him. My reaction was to steer away because I didn't want to damage his car or mine. But unfortunately, it was the wrong decision. Michael Ammermuller knew he had to deliver. After the disaster at Hockenheim, he clinched the double pole with aplomb. The car was superb. The fastest lap wasn't even perfect. I made a slight mistake and lost time. More would have been possible, so I'm satisfied and I'm looking forward to the race. His rival, Larry Ten Voorde, clinched P2 for both races. It's getting tighter and tighter. We're fighting for tenths here. You saw it today. Qualifying was very frantic with the red flag. I turned in another lap towards the end. I think we all gave it everything. The grid for race 1 on Saturday. Ammermuller, P1, his first pole position this season. Ten Voorde goes from P2. The right side may be the better one because turn 1 goes right. Julian Andlauer, P3. The Lechner team, much better than in Hockenheim. Janis Fischer goes from P4, a very good result for the Talent Cup driver. And so to the start of race 1. As the lights go out, it's a very good start with Larry Ten Voorde. Michael Ammermuller, less good start. The Dutch guy is able to overtake Michael Ammermuller, as we can see from being on board with Julian Andlauer. So Larry Ten Voorde with the overtake done and dusted before they even make it to the first turn, which is that right-hander we mentioned previously. So through the first corner come all the cars. And thankfully, all the drivers getting through the first sequence of turns with no problems whatsoever. We're on board with Igor Valilko behind David Coltman, and he's putting him under a lot of pressure. And finally, David Coltman runs wide, making a mistake, and opens the door for Igor Valilko to go through. Let's go on board with Larry Ten Voorde, who's being chased hard by Michael Ammermuller. You can see Michael Ammermuller flashing his lights, hoping to distract Larry Ten Voorde. Let's go on board the Michael Ammermuller car now, chasing Larry Ten Voorde, the top 5, Ten Voorde. Then it's 3 Lechner drivers, Ammermuller, Andlauer, Pereira, followed by Jackson Evans. On board with Sebastian Dorm now. This is at the start-finish line, and Stefan Raykov passes on the left-hand side, as you can see. And Stefan Raykov with a good move there. Let's get a replay of the start. So as the cars all get away, Michael Ammermuller just not getting a perfect start, and there, just through the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the Larry Ten Voorde car coming through and into that right-hander, which is turn number 1. Let's go on board with Dylan Pereira for a different angle of that particular replay, as we can see the top 3 drivers going through turn number 2 now. So back into the race then, and as you can see, Larry Ten Voorde and Michael Ammermuller are beginning to build something of a gap through the rest of the pack. Let's go on board with Tim Zimmerman, hard at work inside that Carrera Cup car, and still on board with Zimmerman, he manages to get past Reese Barr, and that going through turn number 1 and then into turn number 2. Jaap van Lagen is doing some fighting here, and he overtakes. The Dutchman does not have a good weekend so far. It was only P11 in qualifying, and on board with Igor Valilko as Fischer misses his braking point. And that allows Tony Wolff to go through, and also Jaap van Lagen is able to make a move at the same time and take advantage, as we can see from being on board. Now Luca Rettenbacher and Jean-Baptiste Simonauer at the start-finish line. Simonauer seems to be faster. He's pushing Luca Rettenbacher in turn number 1 to try and get past. Zimmerman, Van Lagen, Malja and Henkefend all pass as well. Michael Ammermuller Still behind Larry ten Voorde, the German is close, but Larry ten Voorde is doing a very good job of defending his P1 position and making it harder for Michael Ammermuller to try and find a way by. Let's go on board with Tim Zimmermann now. Tim Zimmermann is under real pressure from Jean-Baptiste Simonauer through on the left-hand side of your picture. So Jean-Baptiste Simonauer tracking Tim Zimmermann and finally is able to make the overtake. Brilliant overtake, brilliant onboard shot. Now this is Berke Bessler stationary in turn number 1, who gets collected by the number 23 car of Louis Henkefend from Team Allied Racing. Also involved is Luca Rettenbacher. However, as you can see, he keeps the momentum and is able to continue and get himself back onto the tarmac. So the safety car is deployed here at the Most Autodrome, and a replay reveals all in terms of why we have that safety car deployed. So Berke Bessler on the receiving end of a tap from Henrik Skoog. That turns him around and on board now with Louis Henkefend, who regrettably had absolutely nowhere to go. The two drivers in front of me avoided a collision and then the car was there. I had no time at all to react and I hit him. I know it's tight there, but you don't expect a stationary car there, of course. Henkefend, bitterly disappointed, gathers his thoughts and walks away from the scene. So to the restart then, and we're at the last turn. Larry ten Voorde, Michael Ammermuller, Julian Andlauer and Dylan Pereira on board with Larry ten Voorde. Done a very good job in terms of nailing that restart, as you can see, has gapped back to Michael Ammermuller. Julian Andlauer is behind Michael Ammermuller, who makes a mistake, and this enables Julian Andlauer to go through to pick up a P2, and on board with Michael Ammermuller, off track, now behind Julian Andlauer. So it's P3 now for Michael Ammermuller, and slow-mo of the same situation, and Michael Ammermuller just pushing a little bit too hard, and Julian Andlauer able to take advantage of a very rare Michael Ammermuller mistake. Now this is Henrik Skoog. As you can see, he's got broken suspension and therefore is going to have to park the number 20 car. However, he doesn't do that terribly well. Let's go on board now with Dylan Pereira, who of course is behind the top 3, and Dylan Pereira then just loses the back end of the car and spins it. Thankfully he's able to put it pointing in the right direction again and continue. So Wolf and Pereira make contact, that's the reason for the spin. And both of the cars are pirouetting. And seeing it from a different angle here, we can see the reason why. Tony Wolf misses his braking point and therefore has no chance to avoid that contact on the number 3 car of Dylan Pereira. And Christoph Huber in the garages in the pit lane really cannot believe what he's just seen. Let's go on board with Carlos Rivas. He's the best B category driver, and after 2 second places in Hockenheim, he will be delighted to win the amateur class. And so too will Larry ten Voorde with regards to the overall classification, because what it means for the driver based in the Netherlands is this is the 3rd victory in a row as he takes the checkered flag, and this will provoke an altogether different emotion from Christoph Huber. And in Parc Fermé then, the congratulations reign for Larry ten Voorde, who's congratulated by his engineer Nicolas Arcanau. Very good race indeed for Larry ten Voorde. I don't know how I did it. It was just at a convenient point. The whole run was superb. Michael made it a bit tight. His maneuver was very hard. However, everything was fair, hard but fair in the first corner, and then it went well. And of course, Julian Andlauer takes P2. He's pretty happy about that, and this is how it happened really. A very rare mistake from Michael Ammermuller allowed Julian Andlauer to go through and pick up P2.
I was waiting for a mistake or something from Michael because he was a bit faster than me, so I did it. I was pretty happy at this point because I scored more points, and for sure P2 is always better.
The safety car was pretty slow. I made a slight mistake in the first lap. The tyres weren't clean yet. I went slightly off track and dropped a position. And at the end, my front lip got airborne. I couldn't do anything then. 3rd place was maximum. Gentleman driver Stefan Rakob finished 3rd in the amateur classification. The race didn't go so well for him after his critical double triumph at Hockenheim. Therefore, he failed to extend his cushion in the overall standings.
ich habe den Start ziemlich verwachst.
I botched the start and didn't find my rhythm
bin
then.
danach nicht sofort in den Rhythmus
My
gekommen.
personal
Nach so
expectations
einem,
were higher
super
after the
Start in
superb
Hockenheim
start at Hockenheim,
waren meine
of course,
persönlichen
and
Erwartungen natürlich
maybe
höher, ja.
that
Vielleicht war das
was the
genauso.
problem. Raykop joined the Carrera Cup Germany in 2017. It's his maiden season at Huber Racing in 2019.
Für mich ist eigentlich das Team nicht so neu.
The team isn't new to me at all, because I took along my mechanics and my race engineer. That was my condition to start again this year. So the procedures aren't new to me, and it's a big relief that I don't have to manage my own team, of course. Raykop's goals and his team's goals this year are higher after he finished third overall in the amateur classification last year. The goal should be to remain in the race for the B classification title until the season finale. And hopefully we'll win. That must be the goal. But one driver is making life difficult for Raykop and Huber Racing, Carlos Rivas. The Luxembourgian Team Black Falcon driver topped the podium in the first race at Most, beating Raykop to the flag by more than 8 seconds. I had a very good getaway. I was full of respect when approaching turn 1, and I was glad when I got through turn 2 unharmed. It went well from then on, and I was able to see it home. And Rivas aims to build on his performance. Black Falcon in the middle of the preparations for the second race. Rivas, like his rival Raykop, has been a Carrera Cup driver since 2017. He only just missed out on the title last year. He's fully focused on the championship title in 2019. He finished second in both races at Hockenheim, and he certainly seems to have the upper hand at Most, and not only on the grid. So to race 2 on Sunday. So Carlos Rivas will be starting from P21. As he looks around, we can see that Stefan Raykop will be going from P22. Carlos Rivas is only 1 point behind Stefan Raykop in the B classification. So we stand by for the start of race number 2. As the lights go out, the cars get away. Mikael Ammermuller pole position, followed by Larry ten Voorde, Dylan Pereira and Jannes Fischer. So as they all head into turn number 1, let's go on board with Julian Andlauer. Very close racing, but again, no crashing into turn 1. Andlauer and Fischer make contact, but everything is okay. So we can see there the Jaap van Lagen car. Let's switch now to Gustav Malja, who's fighting with Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. So Jean-Baptiste Simonauer in the all-pink BWT liveried machine. And while we're enjoying the on-board action, Matthias Jeserich's car is broken. He gets out of the car at the end of the start-finish straight. Soren Spreng also has damage, as does Stefan Raykop. And as we zoom out of that picture, you can see the number 67 car of Sebastian Dorm as well. Well, with such a collision, the race is stopped. Red flag, and the race brought under those red flag conditions. As you can see, the drivers are all absolutely fine. However, there would be a conversation to try and ascertain exactly what happened, but there was great relief for Matthias Jeserich's partner, as you can see. So what did happen? Well, we can see in this replay at the start, Matthias Jeserich is next to Stefan Raykop, and Jeserich spins. On board now with Stefan Raykop, who becomes the filling of a sandwich between Matthias Jeserich and Sebastian Dorm, and Soren Spreng also gets involved as well. So a big crash at the start of race 2. Let's hear from some of the drivers. Matthias Jeserich first. I had a good getaway and attacked the drivers in front of me. I was alongside Stefan Raykop, and then there was contact at the back. As far as I could see in the video, I stuck to my line and then spun. I was lucky that it wasn't worse than that. The push from the side was hard. I was in the middle of a sandwich and I couldn't avoid it. Braking at the start is no option. You get hit at the back then. This way, I was hit at the back anyway, but I couldn't control it. So the opinions then of Matthias Jeserich and Stefan Rakoff, and this onboard replay is from the Richard Wagner car. Doesn't make it any easier to judge, truthfully. The most important thing is that nobody got hurt. Now the restart is going to be behind the safety car. Michael Ammermuller, Larry Ten Voorde and Dylan Pereira. Given the first lap was not completed, Ten Voorde gets his position back. So the last turn then, as the cars head for the green. With 9 laps to go, it's critical so that the drivers can get at least half of the points that are available. So they all scream through, and let's go on board with Tim Zimmermann as he's overtaking Luca Rettenbacher because of a mistake from Rettenbacher, and Kolkman and Zimmermann going through. Let's take a slow-mo look at the same situation here, and you can see that Luca Rettenbacher out onto the gravel, and then the grass, losing momentum, and that allows 2 cars to go past the Luca Rettenbacher car. Let's go on board now with Jaap van Lagen, who's running behind Julian Andlauer. Ahead of Julian Andlauer is Jannes Fittje. And at this point, Jannes Fittje locks up, makes a mistake, and gets into the gravel. Jaap van Lagen and Julian Andlauer able to take advantage of that mistake from Jannes Fittje. And same situation from an outside position. There you can see a big lock-up from Jannes Fittje. Does lose positions, but does manage to keep the momentum going and keep the car moving, so he will get back out onto the track. Now this 3-way fight is going on between Bessler, Acker and Richard Wagner. A really nice close one-make fight going on between these 3 drivers who at one point, as you can see, go 3 abreast. And this fight would continue for corner after corner, and very healthy respect between all of the drivers as well, because racing room is being given and the opportunity as they round the final turn here at Most for them all to continue this fight. It's what racing drivers absolutely love. So whether we're viewing it from one of the trackside cameras or whether we're viewing it from on board as Gustav Malja spins, good avoidance there. Gustav Malja, whose best result thus far this year was taking a P5 in the opening race at Hockenheim. So for the moment, the most lively of these is Richard Wagner in the number 87 car, which we go on board with right now. However, Jean-Baptiste Simonau wants something to say about this, and look left, and there is the Jean-Baptiste Simonau car coming through. So good opportunistic move from Jean-Baptiste Simonau then, who manages to split the 2 cars that have been fighting for ages. Carlos Rivas is something of a lone driver out there, leading the B classification. He is the first in the amateur class overall and completely on his own, so just able to nail every apex. And this is Michael Ammermuller in front, followed by Larry Ten Voorde and Dylan Pereira. And the last turn then, just one more turn to do for Michael Ammermuller, and at last he will be able to put a win in the book as he heads towards the checkered flag. So the Bavarian driver wins, finally his first victory of the season, and the Lechner team, including Mr. Walter Lechner, are very happy with that result. And a couple of other angles of the checkered flag being taken by Michael Ammermuller, the race-winning driver. Let's hear from him now. Only half points, unfortunately. That's bad, of course. I could have cut the gap by more, but that's the way it is. I am satisfied regardless. The car is superb. It can go on like that. Larry Ten Voorde takes P2 and takes on some well-needed water as well. And Dylan Pereira takes P3. It's his first podium of the year. And whilst he's happy with that P3 on the one hand, on the other hand, he's a little disappointed too. I was in P2 before the red flag. I had a very good getaway. Well, you have to accept the red flag and do your thing. I tried to manage my tyres. And then I wanted to push towards the end, but I didn't know that the race had been shortened because I didn't look at the time. I was one of the fastest drivers in the final lap. I wanted to attack Larry, but at that point, it was too late. Nice to see that Stefan Rakoff, despite not finishing the race, attending the prize-giving ceremony and the podium. Rivas is first, Donchev second, Skapansky third in the amateur classification. It's a really good feeling. I avoided all the trouble. The start was terrific. Unfortunately, it was red after the crash. The restart was okay. I just had to see it home without pushing it too much. I had nothing to lose. As we enjoy the slow-mo of Carlos Rivas, proving that he's an exceptional aim with the champagne as well, let me remind you that the next race in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany is in Spielberg in Austria at the beginning of June.